Welcome to ALGO, a lot going on with Raj Kotecha. Joining me on the show, as always, is Vik. Vik, welcome back. And Sal has stepped in because Alex can't make it today. And quite frankly, we just don't have any other Caucasian co-hosts, nor can we afford them. So thanks for stepping in, Sal. Sal, we gave you 20 minutes notice, and you were either seeing those stories as the video went live, as the recording went live, or you were probably figuring them out as we went along. Which one was your favorite one today that we spoke about?
I think the one's talking about what's happening with Dubai in terms of Las Vegas style wedding license is quite interesting. So definitely something to look at, and always interesting to see how the city is evolving and things like that. So
Right, good. I think you should take one for the team, Sal, and get married and use one of those licenses. And of course, joining me as always is Vik. Vik, what's good?
What is up, man? Sal, thanks so much for joining us. Yeah, man, today was another exciting episode. You know, it was weird. I feel like we went through these stories pretty quick, but they're really great stories. Mr. Beast, talking about Mr. Beast curing 1,000 people of blind people from their blindness. Facebook hitting 2 billion, and why we cannot sleep on Mark Zuckerberg. And even like talking about Will Smith, we get into a bit of a debate about Will Smith again. And I feel that's becoming a bit of a theme for us as well, you know?
yeah, definitely.
Yep. On top of that as well, we got Hong Kong giving away 500,000 tickets to get over there. When can you come back, if at all? We'll find out when we talk about it on the show. And then some incredible content recommendations. We talk about the GOAT, the greatest of all time, one of our biggest musical influences, starting from scratch, has done an in-depth interview. We'll talk about that. I got around to watching KSI in real life. Vik talked about that on a previous episode, so we're able to deep dive a little bit. One of the Rockefeller royalty has just done a big podcast recently, and Aziz Ansari back up on that. And then a couple of shout outs, and then some incredible out and about in Dubai. Funnily enough, we only did one episode of ALGO this week, but we have done 4 of the podcasts. More on that as soon as we get past this little audio sting. Boys, are you ready to get into the episode?
We are.
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. All right, guys, let's get into it. A lot of stories to get into today, and we would not be able to really kick it off without covering a story from inside the content realm, which is Mr. Beast has cured 1,000 blind people for a YouTube video. However, USA Today asks, is it performative altruism? Is it something that a form of charity that he's put together just for the clicks, which is obviously his business? What do you think, Vik?
Yeah, so look, I think it's really important to recognize that Mr. Beast is somebody that has outwardly said that he's not in YouTube for money, but he understands that he's going to make a crap ton of money, and that everything that he makes he's going to give back. But along the way, he's going to be doing charitable things, good things. And, you know, it's evidenced by the videos that he's been doing and all the topics on his videos. This is just another thing. And when you really kind of peel away a few layers of this, and I don't know if he's been doing this, if he's done this purposely, or maybe he has, but this is really a kind of, you know, eye-opener on the healthcare system. There's this doctor that he has teamed up with, this surgeon, and that surgeon said that 50% of all people that are blind could be cured with a 10-minute surgery. It's effectively like a cataract surgery, so it's not this kind of permanent blindness that can't be reversed, but it's like this kind of film that makes it blurry, and they effectively remove that film and put a fake one on top, and that effectively cures their blindness. And when we're talking about blindness, we're talking about, you know, people having very, very blurry vision. So they can't see anything solid. They can't see like facial features or anything like that. It's just very, 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 very blurry to the extent that even glasses can't fix it. So he's gone out and done, you know, a great thing as far as I'm concerned. And there's a lot of backlash. You know, a lot of people are saying, oh, you know, rich people should help with the world's problems. And then Mr. Beast goes, well, this is what I'm doing. And then everyone's kind of complaining that the fact that he's doing it for selfish reasons, just to make money. As far as I'm concerned, and this is the kind of the cherry on the top for me, is this: he's making money from these videos knowingly, because he can then take that money and make more videos to help people. So it kind of just, it's like a self-fulfilling thing. Do you know what I mean? It just kind of makes sense that it's done that way. And as far as I'm concerned, there should be more people doing what he's doing.
Yeah. And it's nice as well because it doesn't just kind of end there, right? He's also, checking in on them a few weeks later. He's handing out cars, he's handing out cash. It looks like net, it's a very difficult thing to complain about. Have you seen the video, Sal?
I've seen clips of it, like different
No.
extracts of the video, and mostly seen a lot of conversations on like Twitter and Facebook and other YouTubers talking about it. Yeah, I mean, there's like two interesting conversations that struck up on them, and it's caused a lot of debate. I don't see people unanimously going one way or another, but two things they've said is, number one, people were very critical of the healthcare system, that something this straightforward that can be done, like you said, Vic, 10 minutes, can't be done just because of the healthcare system and the money involved. And I think that sort of veered into commentary about like, he shouldn't have had to do it. The responsibility should have been the government. And then the other thing also is that this is being branded as content. So would he do this just out of the goodness of his heart, privately or whatever, from his money in a philanthropic kind of way? And that goes back to the thing that everything he does is content based. So I personally agree with you guys that I think, it's fine that he's doing it as a humanitarian effort. And also in some ways, I think it raises awareness on the conversation that something like this, people are legally blind. Something this straightforward could be resolved. No one's really known about it, and it speaks more to the healthcare system. So, yeah, I mean, this is where we are right now, where we don't just look at charitable acts from public figures as just goodwill gestures. There's a conversation that goes around it, right? Because it's a publicity thing.
There's a fundamental problem here as well when it comes to opinion, period, which is that we now live in a world whereby all you need is half a dozen tweets to put together a story or a headline that builds a case for whatever the opposite of the obvious case is. So if you write a story today, you just write the keywords of what the opposite of that story is on Twitter, and some moron will be sharing that story. And so now you can justify putting an article out saying, yeah, this people on Twitter said. And I feel like it's almost like dangerous, really, because effectively, someone's always thinking something, and just because it's published online doesn't mean that it's worth making a report about. So I would say, like, big up to this guy. Wicked that he's done this. I think it's really impressive. I think we need to see more of it. And I think, Vic, you might have peaked early on this one, which is that people do say, like, once you get on and once you get rich, why do you not do stuff for others? And he's actively doing it, and he's also still so young. So if you extrapolate Mr. Beast's future out a few years, or better still, a few decades, and you think, what kind of impact can this guy have? I mean, at what point is it that Mr. Beast says, okay, I'm going to get, 1,000 people out of jail and pay for their lawyers, and they come out for like, petty charges or getting really creating like moving from just like stunts and kind of things that are quite clickable right through to healthcare, and then all the way through to like social justice. So, Mr. Beast isn't the first Mr. Beast. I think we're going to see this, and relatively speaking, relative to all the other stuff that we see on the internet as well, it's pretty wholesome content. So I'm fully down with it, man. 5 stars for Mr. Beast. All right, moving on to the next story. Oh, Sal, you had something you had to say?
Yeah, there's one thing just to add. I noticed before this story happened. Are you familiar with this? I think he's a food guy who's on TikTok that's called Keith Lee.
Rings a bell. Carry on.
So he did a thing where he kind of, in a friendly way, challenged Mr. Beast to basically, I think it was something to do with like, basically like food shortages, and basically said that like, he wanted to, basically, Mr. Beast wanted to collaborate with this guy, and he said, I'll collaborate if you help with this food shortage and this food supply in this neighborhood, this community. I think it's in Detroit. And he hasn't responded yet, but a lot of people applauded him because that was sort of another example of challenging in a friendly way a philanthropic sort of social media person to use his content in that way. And I think after he did that, then I noticed like a week later, this thing with the blind people happened. So it's interesting how he's being not called out, not negative, but it's interesting how other people in the social media, TikTok, YouTube realm are kind of like challenging, his charitable efforts in a good way. It's just
You,
interesting.
you know what? It's actually it's a very good point, because it's the, what he's doing, and I don't care what other people think about what he's doing. I think what he's doing is great. And not only that, he's doing great things for the content world as well, and the possibilities of content. So for me personally, there's a charitable side, but there's also the fact that he's having a positive impact on what content can do, not just from a financial point of view and a branding point of view, but also from, a philanthropic point of view, right?
Yeah,
A
yeah.
charitable point of view, which is good, because it inspires other people. Like you just said, this food blogger that said, look, let's look at food shortages as a problem, and how can we make a difference and help. It's the opposite, as far as I'm concerned, of those people that, take their cameras and they go, right, look at me, I'm just going to go and give this homeless person $100 or whatever. And I think that's too kind of, that has too much narcissism involved in it, and I think that those sort of guys should all just kind of not have any social media channels if they're going to do stuff like that. I think that's whack. And I think, people who do that are just kind of bottom of the barrel type people. They're just doing it. They're doing it for the content and for the likes and the comments and the views. Whereas Mr. Beast, let's be very, very, very clear, as far as I'm concerned, he is doing it for the views. He is doing it for the engagement and the comments and the money. But what he's then doing with that, and very outwardly and very openly, and from the jump, he's saying, I'm plowing everything back in. I don't need money. I don't care about money. I'm plowing everything back in to build this channel, to do more good things, to give more away. And there's this, there's that like meme where it's like a script, and then it says like Twitter, rich people should, it says like Twitter says rich people should do good with their money and give everything away. And then Mr. Beast goes, I will give away every single penny that I earn before I die. I'll give it all away. And then Twitter's next line is, Mr. Beast, bad. It's like, it's really dumb. It kind of goes back to what Shawad said. There's just a few people on Twitter or wherever saying a few things, and it has this like multiply kind of compound effect. Do you know what I mean? So it's a really interesting thing, and hopefully it'll just like kind of, without being too woo-woo about it, it'll inspire other people to do more good things.
Yeah, I mean, I think people see the kind of like culture, like you just said, like this culture of people getting the camera, giving money. So people are understandably a little bit wary of that. But like you said, what he's doing is he's kind of putting a call to action and challenging himself in. So we'll see how it goes.
Yep. Okay. Well, next up, let's grab another story off the docket. We have Facebook. Facebook has hit 2 billion daily active users. Not only that as well, but I'm just going to bring up the Facebook stock price. And I think we may have seen potentially almost a doubling recently. So let's look at the last month. A month ago, Facebook stock price was at 126. Today it's at 186. Not a bad run for those guys. Facebook's having a comeback, man. We're talking about kind of like the great tech CEO humbling, and it looks to me like they're having a nice little pop. Even looking as well at Tesla, I think they've had a nice little jump as well. So let's look at the last month on these guys. Yeah, a month ago it was at 110. Now it's at 189. I mean, that is really no joke at all. Recently it was as low as 109. So, I mean, my goodness, pretty amazing. Facebook at 2 billion users. Let me just check this story. Is it Facebook itself or is it Meta? Meta stock.
Meta. Meta
wow.
stock.
Just Facebook, man. That is unbelievable. For a platform that really, effectively, most people feel like is kind of like dead, makes me feel like, I'm being way too narrow, actually, on my view of that platform. Gary Vee said recently as well, didn't you, Vic, that like groups and all that are making a comeback when it comes to engagement. So what happens now? Do we start redirecting our efforts back towards Facebook?
Yeah, I actually think so. Here's the thing, right? So there's that whole kind of thing about you can't count him out. Like, he's too smart, he's too successful, and he's had so much impact on the world. And I think he's going to continue to do it. You really can't count him out. You can just go long Zuck and you'll be fine, because whatever he puts his hand to, he's going to make it work. And frankly speaking, I actually think he's going to make, I don't know enough about Web3, admittingly, but I think he's going to make it work. You know, Oculus is doing well, or at least it's increasing in terms of number of users. Facebook, look, WhatsApp has more than 2 billion daily active users as well. So, you know, he's covering a lot of the globe. I think he just had a little moment where he just dipped away, just regathered himself. He had come back, he had to lay off a bunch of people. He's like, all right, now it's time to get my head back in the game. And I don't think you can count this guy out. And back to and on the groups thing, you know, we've actually talked about it internally a few times, but you know, the important thing about everything really that we do, and we kind of try and help our clients with, is community building. And there's only a number of places and platforms that you can do community building. And, you know, real life is one of them, but not everyone has the chops to do real life community building. So what are the other options for them? Yeah, you could have broadcast lists, but that's limited. But I think Facebook groups in a closed environment of groups is still powerful. And I'll tell you from firsthand experience, there are a number of groups on Facebook that are, you know, like British Dads Dubai and, you know, all that kind of stuff. I go to them maybe once a month, not that often, but maybe once a month, once every 6 weeks, just to ask a question. You know, maybe there's a bit of admin I need to do, maybe this, that, and the other. And literally within seconds, I'm getting answers. I mean, seconds, I'm getting answers, and they're all valuable. Like, this all valuable input. So I wouldn't count out Facebook. I wouldn't count out Facebook groups for community. All the rest of Facebook can just kind of do what it does. But yeah, that's where I see it.
I think one thing people forget as well is that Facebook is probably the most casual of the social media outlets. It's this thing that like your aunts and uncles and parents and all use, and we joke about it. Like I think I check my Facebook like maybe 5 times a year. Like I've gone off it, but we forget that it's still the most accessible of the social media platforms compared to Twitter, compared to Instagram for a lot of people. And they're still on there, still using it. Older people, families, friends, things like this. And the other thing I thought about, you know, there was that big conversation towards the end of last year about how people were going to leave Twitter because of what Elon was doing. I'm curious if in that like 2 or 3 week period, when people were like trying to look for alternatives to Twitter, if there was a spike of people going back to Facebook that may have helped with the trend. I don't know.
That's a very good point. It's a very good point.
I'm just thinking of different reasons. Like I joked in our group, I was like, you know, when they saw the spike, I was like, that's a lot of aunts and uncles wishing Merry Christmas. Like, but
yeah,
I mean, it's probably that.
Yeah, I think also as well, like looking at WhatsApp and some of the options you've got inside of WhatsApp, the way that the app is improving. And I was on the back end of Instagram, which I'm just going into right now as well. And inside there, they've redone the UI so that the filters and the requests are all different. And I think there's even some interesting things happening around groups as well, because I saw something in here. I can't quite put my finger on it, but you know, sometimes when Instagram changes the UI a little bit and they change it just for like a couple of days, and then it mysteriously pops back to what it originally was. Well, I've been seeing that with like groups and different things. And the back end of WhatsApp, the DM feature is starting to look a little bit more, the back end of Instagram, the DM feature is starting to look a lot more like WhatsApp. So I think Facebook Inc. or Meta, as they're now called, has the interesting ability to almost like do tech like usage M&A. Like they can do mergers of their own apps. Like they can take stuff from each of their apps and blend them into each other. I hear that that's also Facebook Reels are doing quite well as well. So you can just post on Instagram. Yeah, post on Instagram and say, yo, go ahead and post it over there. So, you know, how much further can they go? It's to be seen. But if this recession is not going to be as hard of a crash as we once thought, and especially if the business community still got capital to invest, then Facebook's going to ride that all the way to the bank, I would say.
Yeah. And they've still got the promise of Web3.
Yeah, they've got the promise of Web3, and they're also cash rich, right? So if you think about his ownership of users across social platforms. I don't know all the numbers, but between Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, he must have the most, right? That can't be even a question, right? And not only does he have the most in terms of users, but he also has the ability to test on all these platforms in different ways because people use them differently, and they can see the common trends and go, okay, well, what could work? Excuse me, across all the platforms. This guy is no joke, and he could be one of the greatest CEOs of our time.
Yeah, he's gonna, and I think they're doing a solid buyback as well. They've got a huge share buyback, which is gonna keep less shares out there in the public markets than running those prices
40
up.
billion, around $40 billion, I think.
That's what I heard. Yeah. Okay, cool, amazing. Right, well, let's get into some more stories then. Next up on the docket, we have Hong Kong set to give away 500,000 airline tickets to lure people back, baby come back moment. Let's have a look at this. So I know that they're doing it in 3 phases, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, the tickets will be allocated in 3 waves from March 1st, people across Southeast Asia. From April 1st, people living in mainland China. What's the worst that can happen? And then from May 1st to residents in the rest of the world. So here we go. Hong Kong is ready to get people back. It's a World of Winners splash page. I'm going to click it actually and see what it's like. World of Winners. Well, it's absolutely ridiculous, like you'd expect. There's a bunch of Asian people flying towards you. The lead one being a little kid with a little spinning helicopter style. In fact, they've all got them on their heads. So yeah, no, not ridiculous at all. In support of hello Hong Kong. All right, well, I don't know. Would you do this, guys? Would you, if Hong Kong said, "Yo, come down," would you go?
Maybe. Yeah.
I don't know. Really?
Yeah. I mean, think about it like this. We've already been prepared for like masked up travel anyway, right? We know what to like. We know the precautions we have to take, right? Hong Kong's a beautiful city. And we've had almost like 2 years of experience to be careful what not to eat, clean yourself, wear a mask and everything, and
Clean yourself.
I'd be curious.
I like the framing.
Are
you just figuring out what not to eat and how to clean yourself?
No. What I mean is like, I'm fortunate, but like when the pandemic started, we were like gloved up, masked up. I mean, and China, that area of the world, was wearing masks even before COVID, right? So, I mean, what I would ask you guys, what's your fear about going to Hong Kong on a free ticket?
It's a weird one. It's not even that. It's not even so much about fear. It's like, would I go if someone gave me a free ticket? That's really the question, right? Because at the end of the day, your true out of pocket is still going to be maybe 60 to 70% what it would have been. So they'll fly you there, but the second you step off the airplane and you want a glass of water or something, a bottle of water, you're paying for that until the moment you leave. So it says here, stay tuned. Outbound tickets from Hong Kong will become available in July. So that means that you could potentially get a ticket from as early as March, April, or May, depending on where you are in the world. And then the outbound tickets from Hong Kong, I guess maybe the ticket that returns you home is going to be from July. So that means that if you're out there, unless you're paying for your own ticket to go home back to wherever you came from, you're going to be spending big dough. And it sounds to me like you've been there, Sal, but the folks that I know that have been there have also said it's not cheap.
No. Hong Kong is not cheap. It's been decades actually since I've been there, but it's not a cheap place. It's a great place to visit. I mean, obviously, and it's very cosmopolitan city and everything. But I was just laughing because I was about to ask before you mentioned. I was like, "Is it a return ticket?" And then you just mentioned that, like, outbound flights are in July, inbound are in spring. So I'm like, okay, maybe that's a game changer, a little bit of a deal breaker. But it's interesting.
I would go if it was on my kind of agenda to go to Hong Kong this year, for example, and I was thinking, I'd like to go there, and it was like one of the top 3 or 4 places I was thinking about visiting this year, then I'd probably take the chance to do it. I've got family there and I'd love to see them. Sure. But other than that, I am not compelled to go at all. There we go.
All right. Well, good luck, Hong Kong. Hopefully you'll figure it out. I mean, it seems like a bit of a extreme measure, but let's see. I would be keen to see if this works. I think the out of pocket for Hong Kong as a country is only like 20 plus million. It's not a lot of money. So, for them,
254 million.
okay, that's a lot of
Whoa,
money. That's like
that's a lot.
like 10 Beyonce shows. So, all right. Well, anyway, good luck, Hong Kong. And yeah, if you want to go there, you should try and go there at least before it gets taken over by another country. All right. Next up on the docket is we are talking about Dubai to allow Las Vegas style express weddings. So it looks like if you are not of the Muslim faith, that you're going to be able to get a bunch of kind of like quick weddings done. Mixed faith, you can obtain a civil wedding license in just 24 hours. Pros and cons, what do you think? You've read this story, Sal. Did you read it when it came through on the group chat?
I saw it, in passing. I had a lot of questions after my jokes, but
Okay.
yeah, the multiple faith thing is a big thing, because I'm just thinking about, like, when you think of like Las Vegas wedding, think of like shotgun weddings and then potential annulments that are very easy to do and stuff like that. Obviously, it's got to be a little bit different here in Dubai, but I mean, there was a lot of jokes about it, right? Like, as if the dating scene here is already like complicated as it is. But yeah, I mean, like, how would it work? Because I mean, like, in all seriousness, like, just getting married by faith is a big thing in this country, right? The Muslim courts, in terms of weddings and divorces, are very complex. I have a friend who was Muslim and got a divorce, and I've seen him go through all that, and that's quite a lot. So how this would work and things like that is interesting. But I guess it's more for it's more about the tourism for the non-Muslim people and the Europeans and people from all over the world. And again, it's that thing of like making Dubai a glitzy part of the East world that a Vegas would be in the West.
I think a big part of it is that because traditionally people go to Vegas for these kind of weddings, or when they're there, they kind of just take the chance to do it. It's for most places and for most people in the world, it's quicker to get to Dubai and it's cheaper. And now it's definitely seen as a place to come and visit and be on holiday. So, I think it's just kind of another one of those things that Dubai is doing that is not like this big explosive thing, but it's just a subtle little thing to tell people whereas we're more welcoming than people think we are around the world. So I think it's just a nice little PR move. And I don't know the legality around it. I don't know any of that kind of stuff. I know that you can get your civil wedding license within 24 hours. But beyond that, in terms of kind of faith and religion and stuff, I have no idea about any of that. But what I do know is that it's just going to attract, or at least it's going to put another little eye on Dubai. And people that might have not considered it in the first place might consider it.
Yeah, so let's look at the use cases right now for how people normally have weddings when they are here. So we all know of many couples that have, prior to this law coming around that you can get your civil wedding license in 24 hours, there are people that had to go to the Seychelles and things of that nature. So that became very commonplace. So I guess what that means is that you're now not going to have to leave Dubai to get this done. And whatever it took to get married in Dubai prior to February the 1st, where you can now get it done in 24 hours, they've made that easier. So whether you look at it as a marginal improvement in process for people that are already intent on getting married here, or people that are just looking at kind of, like you said, Vic, doing an impulse thing, coming here, maybe, choosing to get married there and then. Either way, it's a step in the right direction for them. So I think this would be a really good thing. I'm on another group chat with another bunch of people, and they said that this is really, because it's about an express wedding, it's not really going to help boost up the events organizers and stuff like that, which are more the kind of like planned weddings. Express weddings probably going to help the trade of selling nappies and baby strollers more so than like big hotel, like 5-star hotel resorts. But it's all still to be seen. It'd be interesting to see what case studies are put forward as a result of this change happening. But net is going to be a great thing, because typically when there's a wedding, there's some sort of trickle down economics to catering or F&B or venue booking or gift giving or any of that kind of stuff. So
It's
yeah,
going to
it would
create
be
a
good to
whole.
check in with people.
It's
Go
going to
ahead.
create a whole. It's going to create a whole nother industry, a whole nother hospitality sort of and service industry in Dubai. And the same way you have those small chapel weddings in Las Vegas because of this. You might
Yeah.
have small little houses, either like shisha places before, that will be in like Iraq or Andaman or something like that, or in Dubai. You never know. It's just something like that, and they'll make a thing out of it.
So instead of like all those surgery and aesthetic clinics and stuff that the villas are turned into, they're going to turn into little wedding chapels, possibly as
Goodbye
well.
You know,
spas, hello wedding chapels.
you know what's crazy though? We joke, right? But think about it. Like, look how many people in the real estate industry have started talking about the golden visa as almost like a bundle, almost like a gift with purchase. If you buy a property for more than 2 million dirhams, or you put down more than 2 million dirhams as a deposit on a property that will clearly cost much more. And they're saying that, look, you get the golden visa, like you'd be silly not to. It's such an incredible offering by Dubai. I think you guys might have actually touched on something there, which is that venues might start offering these marriage kind of bundles. It depends on, let's see what it takes, in terms of like getting the civil wedding license. And do you need like a PR or someone to go and help you figure that out? A PR in this country being somebody who's like a fixer. But yeah, actually, I think we might even see this getting like sub-commoditized into like other offerings. Not a bad idea. Definitely worth keeping an eye on. And I think for people like us as well that are also in nightlife and entertainment events, I think there's only going to be an upside for it. So that's looking pretty interesting. All right, moving on. Next story. Have you guys been to Will Smith's Instagram? Who's been to Will Smith's Instagram out of both of you?
Yeah,
I saw
only
this.
because
Thoughts? Let's tell them the story first and foremost. If you're listening, Will Smith posted on his Instagram, having gone over to Martin Lawrence's house in the most boomer style, almost parody of doing a kind of casual vlog, that he's now doing Bad Boys 4. So, a couple of things to consider, from my perspective at least. Firstly, Bad Boys 1, 2, and 3 are great films, in my opinion. Even 3, I was really, really happy with once it finished. I think I went to see it in the cinema. So I have no doubt that 4 will be good because they managed to get 3 right, which is very, very unusual to get 3 films in succession right. Secondly, we're coming out of Will Smith's kind of like, Dark Cloud era. I know that the film that he did there where he played a slave, that was probably already booked and produced before the slap happened with Chris Rock. I feel like this Bad Boys 4 deal, whilst I'm sure it was always being talked about, I feel like it might have only been pushed through post what happened at the Oscars. So just as consumers, first and foremost, Vik, are you excited?
Yes, I'm excited as a consumer. I enjoy the Bad Boys movies. I'm not expecting much from them, but what I do expect, I get. Just a action movie with 2 kind of quote-unquote jokers in the movie, and I think they're great. I could watch a Bad Boys movie if it's on TV at midnight and I can't sleep. I have no issue with that at all. When Bad Boys 4 comes out, I'll be happy to watch it, and I'm sure I'll enjoy it. I agree with you. I didn't think Bad Boys 3 was amazing compared to 1 and 2, but it delivered on what it was supposed to deliver, and it was a fine watch. I've watched it only once, but it was good enough. In terms of my opinion on everything else, I think the way that it was delivered was whack. I feel like Will Smith and Martin Lawrence's energy are very, very out of sync. Really out of sync. Martin Lawrence is way more kind of, almost reserved. Ironically, considering who he is, he comes across very reserved, and Will Smith is way over the top. And yeah, the way he kind of got in the car and knocked the camera on his eye, and it was just corny, and it was almost like he was scripted to do that, and I thought that was kind of whack. But here's what I would say: if 2 celebrities were in a bar and they got into an altercation and one of them hit the other, it would be news. but you could kind of go, okay, it's news, and then everyone just kind of glosses over it and just moves on. He slapped the goat, one of the goats, on the biggest stage in Hollywood in front of everybody and the whole world, and everything's just moved on and forgotten about, like, literally. And I'm not dissing Will Smith, I'm not, whatever, but it's just weird that that's happened. He was forgiven the moment it happened, and that's a weird kind of thing to happen. I don't know why, if there's anything going on, but that to me is still playing on my mind. I'm like, every time we talk about Will Smith, I'm like, how did he just get away with it? Like, completely get away with it, where other people who have done lesser things get completely cancelled, even just for like saying a joke or whatever. I mean, he exacted violence on his peer, and it's weird that he's gotten away with it in culture.
I feel, but we've spoken about this before, right? Like the timeout is really small, because the news cycle is so fast, so rapid, the waterfall of what's happening in the world, that, this happened with Will Smith probably under a year ago now. And you don't have to take that much of a time out, unless you've hit like R. Kelly levels of, upsetting society, you're pretty much guaranteed a comeback. And if anything, America loves rags to riches, and then a rise and fall, and then rise again. So I'm actually not shocked at all that he's coming back. For me, it was always going to be a matter of time. Even Kanye eventually will come back, because it's almost like the earth, man. It's like, you can go somewhere and you can damage it, and you can build a resort, and you can pollute the rivers. But if you get everybody the hell out of there, like human beings, that river will clean itself up, and that resort will eventually be covered with like trees and monkeys, and back to wherever nature's meant to be. So I think it's completely normal. And I think throwing a Bad Boys in there as well to get people back to old him is the equivalent of Kanye putting out songs that remind you of old Kanye. Like Will Smith having his old Will Smith moment as part of his comeback is not really a bad strategy. What do you think, Sal?
Yeah.
So
Sorry, just before you do say so, I just want to say I completely agree, Raj. My only thing about it is that with Kanye, there was a lot of conversation, there was a lot of back and forth, there was like opposing sides, there was debate, there was all that kind of stuff. But with Will Smith, it was like it didn't happen, almost like, it's like it feels like it almost didn't happen. Yes, there was some, but it was very little comparatively. Now, what Kanye did versus what Will Smith did, you can argue it's way worse. But that's the point. But yeah, everyone just needs to kind of take a time, and they're going to come back. Sorry, Sal, please go ahead, man.
I thought what he did first of all, I'm glad to see that we don't have to wait like 8 to 17 years for another Bad Boy film. They're all great. We kind of grew up with them. And it's kind of like the Tom Cruise playbook of like, when you've had a public controversy, go back to your franchise that has your fan base. He had the thing where he's jumping on the couch. He had the Mission Impossible films immediately. So yeah, I mean, it's great to see another Bad Boys film. And, there was talk like when the thing happened at the Oscars that a Bad Boys film was going to be put on hold, and all these projects were going to be put on hold for him. But it's a weird one, because, when the incident happened, there was a lot of people that were also trying to say that they were trying to blame Chris Rock as well. Now, I think as time has gone on, they see that Will Smith is still at fault for like doing that publicly. So I think there was just a whole bunch of conversation that was happening in the fallout of that incident. That is probably why Will Smith hasn't been sort of been dealt a harsher punishment. Because initially they were going to be like, he's going to be banned from the Oscars for like 5 years and stuff. And then people brought up the fact that like Roman Polanski's won Oscars, Woody Allen still gets invited, and all the double standard stuff. So when you get into that, it's like a slippery slope, and he hasn't done that. So that was one of the things. I thought one thing to add to that as well, really bad timing from his team to release the video, because they dropped that video at the same time Warner Brothers and James Gunn was doing their big DC reboot announcement, like literally the same time, same day. And it kind of got overshadowed to like the next day. So I don't know. And he knows he's got a relationship with Warner Brothers, and he's done those films. So I don't know why they dropped it exactly at that time.
I tell you what. I tell you what. I don't think there's enough of a crossover of audience
No,
in
yeah, you're
your
right. Yeah,
in your sect of people, like the nerdy people that will
sure.
be interested at that level in both to care. So the people
Yeah,
that are like going to care about the DC announcement are going to care about the DC announcement. The ones that are going to care about the Will Smith one are going to care about the Will Smith one. But the ones that care that one got overshadowed by the other, you're a small minority of people
I'm the only
because you're
one who
way
mentioned
more.
it. Yeah, exactly.
Well, you are.
I'm
In
literally the
fact,
only
you are
one.
the only one that's mentioned it. Yeah, but I think that's a small minority of people. But it could have been timed better. But both stories came onto our radar. So
Yeah. So here's a big threat is that the news dropped, and obviously, like, once Will Smith announced that he's going to do Bad Boys 4 with Martin Lawrence, I actually didn't hear anything about the story post him mentioning it on his own Instagram. I didn't see Breakfast Club talk about it. At least it didn't come up in my YouTube algorithm. Didn't see Hot 97 or any of the major kind of like radio outlets from the culture covering it. And when I was on Twitter and Instagram, no
That's why.
clips, no one cared. So it's very weird to see that, okay, yeah, he can put all these building blocks back together, but will that core fan base defend him? Or is there enough people in that fan base to defend him? And it doesn't seem to be like there is. So I think what we do need now is more data. We need to go into promo cycle for this movie. We need to see some behind the scenes clips come out. They need to basically follow the identical formula that's now been perfected by Kevin Hart and The Rock ahead of like putting their movie out, and then let's see how it goes. If it's a good movie, it's not a bad thing. It'll be a nice little royal flush moment for the Bad Boys franchise. If it's not, it will probably come across double worse just because of the setup going into this with Will Smith. But that being said, Will Smith does look like he's on the mend. I think it's only right that we get back to some sort of normality in the culture, and I hope that everything does get worked out. And also I hope that Chris Rock does en masse drop his thoughts, and I think that would be a big closure moment. I think one of Chris Rock's strategies is not going long form in terms of doing interviews about it or going like putting out to the masses a set where he deep dives on it, because before he gives his sermon on it, it creates confusion in people's minds as to what he really thinks. I'm sure it's a form of punishment to Will Smith, because until he comes out and actually addresses it head on, it'll always be kind of like hearsay as to what's this man thinking, what's he going to do. It's almost like you kind of feel like that a guy wants to take revenge on you, and you've got no idea as to what angle he's going to take on it.
Can I just add something to that as well? I don't know if you've read, but apparently Chris Rock has another Netflix special that's dropping, I think, in February, and it's live. It's going to debut live, and people have said, as he's been on tour with Dave Chappelle, he's mentioned little things because they don't record the set, but he's mentioned little things, and there's something that's been building. So he may address it, but like on some like without name, if you know, you know. Type
Wait,
thing,
what do you mean? What do you mean live? Like they'll stream it live on Netflix?
So from my understanding, is similar to what Amazon did with the concerts for Kendrick. It will debut live from the theater whenever it drops, and then it will stay there as a playback. But this is going to be their first time dropping a live thing. That's what I last heard a couple of months ago.
So like it's happened a few times. So Louis C.K. has just done that, but he does it through his own website. He's you just pay, I think it's, I know, whatever, $5, $10, and you can watch it live, and then it stays on for a certain period of time. And Netflix is doing that with Chris Rock. I think so. This is a comedian's right and prerogative and nature to want to have their own platform to talk about whatever it is that they want to talk about. So going back to your point, Raj, he's done the right thing by not going on Oprah or when Ellen was on, whoever these talk show hosts are. He's done the right thing, and he's like, I've got every right just to kind of not say anything until I want to say something. And I think I don't know, but I really think that he's not going to be on not some naming thing. He's going to, like, what's he got to hide? Everyone knows what he's talking about. So I think he's just going to say Will Smith, and he's going to say the Oscars, and he's going to say what it is. There's going to be no cloak and dagger stuff with it. He's going to just be balls to the wall and just be out there, man. Like I think he's going to eviscerate Will Smith. It's not going to harm Will Smith's career. It's not going to harm his career. But I think he knows it's like everyone's anticipating it, waiting for it, and he's going to make it solid. Like, you don't expect anything less. I can't wait for it. So yeah. Anyway,
and I think there's so much content as well to unravel from that. Like, who knows? I mean, if Chris Rock did a 15-minute bit about his journey down to the Oscars that day, that alone would be hilarious. Like, he could literally cover, the week before and the week after, and that could just be it, or like 48 hours before, 48 hours after. And the way that this man puts kind of perspectives and tells stories and builds scenarios in your head, that alone would be hilarious. So I think it's going to be great for him. He's holding back on his payout. I think he's going to be very strategic with it. He's probably got some of the best people in the world advising him as to how to capitalize on this. So good for him, man. Really good. I'm looking forward to seeing how this rollout happens. Okay, closing story for today. We have a follow-on story from one that we spoke about in a previous episode, which is that Jay-Z has recently got into some beef with Bacardi because they are also involved in his Douce line. The recap on that story is that he basically wants to see the numbers. He wants to look kind of like behind the curtain on this business so that it could be valued. He said that where the stock was, how much it was worth, when I say how much the stock was worth, as in literally the value of the products, it was becoming increasingly difficult to audit. Red flags went off in his head that maybe this brand Douce is worth a lot more than the numbers that are being thrown around. Turns out on this journey that he actually offered to buy Bacardi out for 1.5 billion. And if the company is worth more than that, you can understand why Bacardi would not want to sell it. Because in fact, here's what might have happened. Bacardi might have offered him 1.5 billion and he might have said, you know what, it's not worth 1.5 billion. If it is, I'd offer you that. And it turns out now that he's going to stay involved in this brand. So roll back a few weeks ago, he owned half, Bacardi owned half. Now, Bacardi have got a majority share in what he had left. If we scrape that all the way down to the bottom base economics of this, if it's worth 3 billion and they owned half and half each, that means before the purchase, Jay-Z's half was worth 1.5 billion, Bacardi's half was worth 1.5 billion. If they took, even if it was just 50.01%, then that means they'd have wired Jay-Z $750 million for this. And knowing Jay-Z and knowing the reputational damage that could be caused to Bacardi and how this deal was probably done in the greatest of ways behind the scenes, I'm feeling like Jay-Z probably came up a good amount of multiple hundreds of millions, if not touching $1 billion, off the back of this deal. And what a weekend for it to happen, because in the next 12 hours, he's going to be doing the God Did verse at the Grammys. Ross will be there, Wayne will be there. Man, Jay stays winning, man. Jay stays paid, as I said in the group chat. What do you reckon to this story, Vic?
There's not much more to say apart from what you pretty much summed it up you summed it up perfectly. So I think what it is a majority stake, which would be 26% of Jay-Z's 50%. So yeah, those numbers stack up. So it's around 750 million. So that'd be
26% of the overall thing. So more than 51% of what he was holding.
Right, exactly. So then they take the majority holding. But what's really interesting, and I can't think of any specific examples, but it just keeps happening. Timing. You said that he's about to do this verse at the Grammys. He times things so well around, events or any kind of thing that he's doing, that he doesn't need to do any other kind of promo or publicity for any event that he might be at, or the Grammys attendance or anything like that at all. His timing seems to be impeccable. So this deal, obviously, as we know, has been going on for a long time, or quite some time. And I don't think it's a coincidence that it's in the news now to be effectively settled just before the Grammys. And I think he's planned it that way. And I think he's been planning everything that he does that way for so long. I mean, you guys know his career way better than me, but that's my takeaway from it. Like, yeah, he has walked away with 750 million, and that's amazing. But the compound effect of all of these little things that it does to his brand and his like allure is phenomenal. And I think it feels like it's all planned, you know. So
He's been telling people, he's been
Yeah.
saying like, yo, that's a CEO's mind, that marketing plan was me. That's one of his most famous
Yeah,
lyrics where he's like, please make sure that you don't get it twisted. I will take credit for the majority of these big wins in terms of perception and timing. Sorry, Sal?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say this is now evolved beyond like any other like celebrity turned on entrepreneur. For him to find this thing and to get this much money out of it with the Bacardi deal is pretty crazy. And I mean, as a fan of his, all I'm just thinking is like, what verse is he gonna put it in? Because I don't know if he's gonna give us albums anymore. I'd like to think we're gonna get another Jay-Z album, but it's gonna be interesting to see what verse he puts in because he's very topical, right? He gives you those 1 or 2 verses a year that talk about what's been going on with him, whether it's like the NFL, whether it's like some deal, you know, some Rock Nation deal. There's always something like that. So it's going to be interesting to see like what double entendre, triple entendre he puts the story in it, basically.
Isn't Rock Nation about to have a big weekend? Isn't Rihanna performing at the Super Bowl? And when is the Super Bowl?
The Super Bowl is next weekend. Yeah.
Roll
yeah, 'cause
flush,
they've
man.
had the-
Roll flush for Hove.
Yeah, and they just had the Rock Nation brunch. You know, they do the Grammy brunch.
Yeah.
Beyonce's going on tour. She's got the world tour. I think that's under Rock Nation. Yeah, they're still doing their thing.
you know, I just googled just a real quick Google of like Jay-Z's like big deals. I just googled it and Double XL's just got this article of Jay-Z's biggest boss moves of his career. So just at a kind of quick glance, there's the 10-year deal with Live Nation, which was worth around $200 million. There's a deal with Samsung, which was worth $5 million. You know, there's a deal with, he becomes the CEO of Def Jam. He acquires Tidal. He does this deal with Bacardi. He gets all his masters back. He gets $250 million for the On the Run tour. He sells Rockaware for $200 million. I mean, everything that he's done is just a home run. It's so crazy that like a guy from the streets who made his career in music is doing so many big wins, like so many big wins. It's I don't know many other or any other hip hop artist that is as prolific. Can you think of? I don't know.
Nobody. No,
Nobody, right?
We've been saying for a long time he's the greatest.
He's the
Not
most
in terms of
focused.
music. Yeah, not in terms of music. We know that, but I'm talking about in terms of like deals. No one's done this level of deal, right?
There's people who have done individual home runs, like 50 with Vitamin Water.
I'm
and,
talking
like,
about
Puffy,
multiple.
but like this, yeah, but what I'm saying is putting this all together over this period of time and reinventing yourself and all that. We've not seen anything like this. Forget hip hop, like just for like an artist or a celebrity that comes from one platform who didn't have a marketing degree or business degree or anything like that. He surrounded himself with smart people, but he himself is a smart person. He didn't he didn't put emotion into things. He knows where to go. And like, yeah, at this point you have to say to yourself, like, this is not someone who it's not just because he's had like the right business people. He has had that as well, but he's also had the right intuition on these things.
Yeah, you know, Hove is also big in the NFT game, also in the venture world as well, like Marcy Ventures. We know that many years ago he had some money wrapped up in, I think it was the third round of Uber. So these are just the deals that we know of. So for him to hit those numbers, you know, $1 billion or maybe even $2 billion, he had to be super active. So yeah, nice win for Hove. Great to see. I think that's us done for news stories. There are a few others, but we will just keep moving on, keep it moving and grooving. Right, let's head into some content recommendations. Vik, what have you got?
So I was on, so DJ started from scratch, who's the GOAT DJ. He's Russell Peters' tour DJ, amongst many, many, many other things, and also a big kind of influence in our DJ careers. Started from scratch. He is on a podcast being interviewed. It's about 2.5 hours long. It's called the DDHD podcast, and it stands for Dreams Don't Have Deadlines. Now, I am only 25 minutes into it, and this is one that I'm actually taking the time out to watch on YouTube. And as you guys know, based on my kind of scheduling, it's difficult for me to watch podcasts. So I'm actually taking the time out. So this one might take me a few days to watch, but the first 25 minutes is great. It's starting from scratch. You don't see him on interviews much. He's not a guy that is like on every podcast, jumping around, talking about everything. So the fact that it's 2.5 hours, in the description, he talks about his like beginnings, how he started, being friends with Russell, mental health, anxiety, all these things. So I think without even watching the whole thing, for me, that's an absolute content recommendation. The first 20-25 minutes has been great so far as well. So that's the one for me, guys.
Nice. Okay, perfect.
I've got one.
Go ahead. Yeah, we want to hear it.
It's not a recent one. It actually came out this time last year, but it's on Amazon Prime. It's a documentary about Fat Tuesdays. Are you familiar? Do you know what Fat Tuesdays are?
No.
Was that one of the nights in? Was that the one in New York?
It was actually in LA. So basically,
Okay.
it was a comedy night at the Comedy Store in the 80s through the 90s, and it's essentially inspired like Def Comedy Jam and In Living Color. And it started with Robin Harris, and then Guy and Joe Torre took it over. It's a really well-made documentary because I didn't realize how influential Joe and Guy Torre were, and in terms of how many comedians they broke, like especially African-American comedians, but even white comedians like Gary Owen and stuff. Look out for it on Amazon Prime. It's a really good documentary, good 2-hour documentary. A lot of especially if you're like a 90s head, it's really good.
Right down your street, Vic. Worth checking out.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, couple on my side. So I was today listening to an old podcast, maybe about a year old or so. Like, in fact, I've got my headphones in, so it won't like leak into the podcast. But this podcast was posted. Actually, no. What am I talking about? It was 2 weeks old. With Kyambo Joshua, also known as Hip Hop, royalty really in the hip hop world. A big part of Def Jam, a huge A&R, wrote a bunch of hooks, was right there in the source code of the big records from Freeway, Kanye, Just Blaze, so much Hove stuff, Song Cry, all that kind of stuff. Really, really good. And, they tell you from the beginning of this podcast, and I think this is really about the chemistry of it, is that hip-hop never used to go out too much to the clubs. And he likes listening to the Road podcast because of the fact that he hears DJs talking about records that he made. So I think that's really, really sweet. And also there's one Asian DJ, I don't know his name, but he's wearing a Rough Riders t-shirt. He's in the middle with gold headphones if you watch it on YouTube. And he actually is from like those original days, right, moving around in the 90s, Harlem and places like that. So really just really a really good podcast. Super duper nerdy. If you're our age, over 35, grew up on Rockefeller Records, then there's some really great bits and pieces in there. So that would be one recommendation. Sal, I think you're going to absolutely love that one as well from a nerdy point of view.
Yeah, probably. I've been a big fan of his hip hop. Like, he's A&R'd a lot of important Def Jam and Rockefeller albums, and there's some albums that didn't come out that he's put that I'd love to hear about a bit. Definitely someone
nice.
To be on podcast more.
Yeah, for sure. Also, Vic, I managed to see the KSI movie, KSI in Real Life. Sal, have you seen it yet?
I'm not, but I've seen it pop up on my Amazon Prime. I'm gonna check it out.
It's worth it. Yeah, it's really good. So I met JJ a few years ago, maybe 2017, 2018. I was introduced to him just as a guy who's in content, who does a lot of stuff around gaming. I had no idea how big or how famous he was, but he was it was 5-6 years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And I actually don't follow his content. I'm not subscribed to his YouTube channel, or I don't listen to his music or anything like that. But so I think that puts me in a pretty unique position because I understand the content world really, really well. And I've also not seen him. So to sit in that weird Venn diagram and then just hit play on a well-produced Amazon Prime documentary, which talks about KSI and a lot of things to do with his journey as a creator, especially his current relationships and priorities, whether it be his girlfriend slash ex-girlfriend, his crew, buying a property, going into music, being criticized, but more importantly as well, like folding in the immigrant kid journey as well. I thought there was a lot going on. There was a lot of multiple storylines and things worth investigating, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a job well done. It was very nice to see our friends in the credits, so I just want to give a huge shout out to Mams Taylor and Abs Pabari. Mams is a very old friend of mine. I think I might have given him his first interview actually back in LA in the late 2000s, and he's now the manager of KSI, and he's doing his thing. And then Abs Pabari works on his team, and Abs, of course, has been rolling with us since he was 17 years old. So really, really nice. Proud of those two guys. And it was really the first time that I actually got to know this KSI character, and I really, really liked him. I respect his hustle. He seems like a super bright guy. And also, although they don't go into any kind of detail, the diversification that these YouTubers have when it comes to building products and services around what they do it's really delightful to see. So love it. Very, very highly recommended. And finally, Aziz Ansari has a 30-minute special on Netflix. It could be a little bit, a little bit older right now. It looks like it was done kind of like towards the back end of the pandemic, but really, really, really funny. Enjoyed it a lot. 30 minutes, kind of, it's over as soon as it starts, but there's some really good talking points in there. And he's obviously an eccentric. He's not lost that. He's not lost the voice. He's not lost everything else. So if you're into it, if you're into stand-up comedy, and you've got that window of time as opposed to doing a long form on Netflix like a lot of them are, definitely go check it out. So that's it. Shout outs. Sal, have you got any shout outs? You want to give any shout outs?
Shout out to everyone who was at Taste of Dubai over the weekend, which was the big Dubai food festival. I saw our man Almar that was there, and Matar and Chef Reef, and Sam, our friend from Soul and stuff. I actually bumped into him today, chopped it up with him a little bit. So shout out to him. And Simon and Chris
Sama,
there.
right?
Yeah.
Sama from Akibadori.
Yeah, and also, Sam from Seoul, we went on the boat with.
Yes, yeah.
I bumped into him as well. I saw him there. Yeah, he was just inside. He was just like checking it out. There was a lot of people there. There was obviously Brent Black and Chris Fade were there. They had like setups there, but all the Michelin star restaurants that are in town, and like Philia and Matar and Woodfire and Reef, they all had stalls giving away little kind of like buns and little like serving things, or like 30 dirhams and stuff. It was a really good weekend.
Wow.
It was quite just, so shout out to a bunch of chefs, everyone helping out, and everyone who I saw there today.
Nice. Let's do a little bit. Let's stick with the out and about thing. Then we'll come back to shout outs. So
Sure.
yeah, man, big up to them. That sounds really interesting. I kind of sad that I missed it. I also always say as well, our friend Sama from Akibadori just had a big press headline today that they are actually, they've signed a franchise deal for 30 outlets in India. I think he's just about to be out of here. Like 30 outlets in a market like India with an emerging middle class is going to be crazy. So massive congratulations to him and his team. I remember I went to India. I was hanging out in Mumbai at a food, how over here we have like the Right Market. It was the equivalent of like a Right Market, like a fresh food market where they're doing like, food and crafts and meals and things of that nature. And I remember people were just like bugging out because they were like mashing up avocado and making guacamole, and whole families were buying like bowls of guacamole and like eating it, and kind of like you could overhear them, like multiple generations of families that move around together as they tend to do over there, like reviewing what they thought of the food. So I was like, wow, the middle class is going to love all this kind of stuff. Plus the internet's presenting it to them online. So I think Samra is about to go crazy out here. So shout out to Akibadori heading over to India. All right, Vic. Well, let's just stick with the out and about vibe. Give us yours this week. Where have you been?
Yeah, so we'll come on to like what you and I have been doing collectively all week, but just this weekend, on Friday night, I went to Dubai Glow Garden. Now, first time I've been there. There we meeting up with a couple of friends that we haven't seen for, very close friends of ours we haven't seen for like maybe 2 or 3 months actually. It's been some time. So they suggested that we go over to Dubai Glow Garden. There's like a Dubai dinosaur park as well. So we just go check it out, walk around and have a bit of food. Yeah, man, listen, I tell you what, Dubai, Dubai is amazing. There's a massive park in the middle of town with a whole bunch of structures that are lit up for no reason at all. And it's just a great thing to do. Like, it's really, really impressive. Like, it's just massive sculptures of like, like just massive sculptures that are lit up. And then adjacent to it is like a dinosaur park. And they've got, life-size and semi-life-size models of dinosaurs. And they've got a little kind of display where it talks about who the dinosaur is and what they did. And a bunch of them are like animatronic, so they're robotic. So they'll like move around and their legs will move and then they'll like roar. I tell you what's really interesting. This is the level of detail that Dubai goes into. When you see these dinosaurs, it's so weird I'm talking about it. When you see these dinosaurs and they're roaring, you look at their rib cage and their rib cage is like moving as if it's like breathing and stuff. So they've gone into this like real crazy detail. And of course, I went with my son and my wife and the friends, and he loved it because he loves dinosaurs. He's a kid. But yeah, that's what I did on Friday night. It was awesome. And then yesterday I went for lunch at a place called Bukater. Now, Bukater is in the Fisherman's Harbour, kind of on the Jumeirah side. And it's like...
Jumeirah
like
too, right?
little...
Just north of Salt.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I'm not 100% sure, but just is BU space QTAIR.
Yeah.
Anyone that wants to go, I'd recommend it. It's like a little square. There's like 4 or 5 restaurants there, and Bukater is like, you sit outside, you're on the docks, you see all the dhow boats that are docked there, and what they do is you go in and you choose your fish, and then you choose your kind of seasoning, and then they cook it. And then they're on the side, they serve like a curry sauce, rice, and a bit of salad. And you literally just eat the fish, rice, and you just pour the curry sauce on top. And I tell you what, it was outstanding. It was,
nice.
It was
What's the
really,
price point?
really. So there was 5 of us in total. There was a massive fish. I couldn't even tell you the weight and size of it, but it was huge. It fed all 5 of us without a problem. We got some portions of rice. We got the curry sauce and a bit of salad. And like 5 soft drinks, water and soda or whatever, 185 dirhams.
Wow.
So pretty reasonable. And yeah, man, anyone that wants to go there, I'd recommend it all day long. So yeah.
Can you go any day?
By the way, it opens at 12. We got there at 1. When we got there at 1, it was probably about 70% full. So if you want to go, get there on time, because by 1:30, 2 o'clock, when I went inside just to like get a bottle of water or whatever, there was a massive queue inside just waiting to choose their fish and choose an order. So it gets busy. There's no reservations, nothing. You just rock up. If you're lucky, you'll get a table. If you're not, you got to wait. So
is it 7 days a week or is it only on weekends?
Don't know. Think so.
Okay.
Probably 7 days.
All
I
right.
have no idea.
Bukater, BU space QTAIR. Go check it out. Especially if you're into fish. That Jumeirah part of town is always popular when it comes to that. Obviously, Sal, we got you out and about this week at this Dubai Food Festival, which is dope. There's really only one big... I'm going to go through my phone whilst we're talking about this, but for us as an agency, there's only really been one big theme this week, which is we've been on a bit of a promo tour talking about the new content strategy assessment that we've got available online. So this week, I want to give a big shout out to all of the interviews that we managed to get into the can. Firstly, I want to give a shout out to Talk 100.3 FM, Talk Sport Business with Lachlan and Neil. Then I want to give a shout out to Danielle and Twee from the M2M podcast. They were over from Toronto, Canada. We did a cool ass interview with them. And then Into the Desert with Freddie Pullen. We recorded that over at F10. They built a studio, which was so nice. And they created it right there in their stock room. It's super cool. Amazing interview. And then Failing Forward with Adnan and Dan. So I want to give a huge shout out to all of those podcast creators. We actually had 6 interviews this week scheduled. One of them was we were not able to get a studio in place. That creator was not able to get one. So I'm going to hold back on releasing that one or talking about it until he's got it in the can. And another one, we had a technical difficulty. But upon talking to Vik, I think what we'll once we get these first few cohorts off the ground, we'll do those podcasts as well, and maybe a couple of others, and talk about what we've learned. But expect in the next 1 to 3 weeks, all of those podcasts will come out. And if you head over to youtube.com/Raj Kotecha, if you're watching this video on YouTube, you're already on that channel, you can check out the Talk 100.3 interview with Lachlan and Neil. That video is titled, "Where Are You on Your Content Journey?" So I want to give a huge shout out to all of them. I don't know if I've been anywhere else. Let me just check my phone, because I generally tend to take a lot of pictures when I do go places. Nope, just me and Sal have been doing 5K walks, and that's about it. And then a ton of, basically nothing. I've been exhausted the whole week. So very good. Big shout out to those people. And a couple of shout outs. I want to give a shout out to House of Janos, our friends, who I went to their event with Sal, actually, 5-6 weeks ago. Incredible parties. They've done a few since, and I've not had a chance to go. I wasn't able to go on Friday because I was trying to protect my voice for the interview that I had, or that Vik and I both had, actually. The Failing Forward podcast was both of us. So I didn't want to ruin my voice for that Saturday. So I missed the first birthday party, but it looked incredible. And a huge, massive shout out to Love Soul alumni, OG, really. Rishi Kotecha. He was with me back in Manchester 20 odd years ago. We used to throw parties, famously Soul on Sundays, SH&G, also known as Shag, and so many other things. We did events in Toronto. That's my little brother. We worked on Sync Bar together. Just extremely close to me, and extremely proud of him and all that he's achieved. He did his own boiler room party last night in his own venue, so can't beat that with a baseball bat. Well done, dude. And happy 40th to you. Big up, big up, big ups. All right, Vikash, what about you?
Yeah, no, that's it, man. I wanted just to say happy birthday to Rishi as well, man. He messaged me a few weeks ago about the party, and I was like, man, I'm so gutted I can't make it. He goes, yeah, but I have to extend the invite out to you guys as well. So listen, I saw some Instagram stories from him that he's been like posting and reposting from the party, and it definitely looked like a vibe, man. I think he did himself justice. He's got Sync Bar in Harrow in Pinner, and it's definitely the best bar in that area. And the way he's the guy in that venue, and he makes it kind of what it is from an energy perspective. And a lot of people go there because of him and because of what he's made it. And they definitely turned out for him on that night, man. So big up to Rishi, man. Happy 40th birthday.
Yeah, amazing. All right. Big ups all the way around. Okay, wicked. I feel like there was somebody else as well whose birthday it was on the... Oh, let me see. Let me just type in the word birthday in my WhatsApp and see who I messaged birthdays to. It's not working in my favor, to be fair. All right, then. Well, if it was your birthday this week, big shout out to you. And if you enjoyed this podcast, because we are now at the end of it, give us a 5-star rating and review. Leave us a comment on YouTube if you're checking it out. Sal, thanks so much for stepping in for Alex, who's out and about in Amsterdam. We really appreciate you. Of course, we'll have you on again from time to time. And if you enjoyed this podcast, leave us a comment, subscribe, 5-star rating and review, and we will see you midweek for another update. And next weekend onwards, I'll be doing these podcasts from Amsterdam. So here's my request. If you know somebody in Amsterdam that you think I should be connecting with, either on some content strategy side, business, branding, good folks to network with, good folks to grab coffee with, drop me a DM right now on Instagram at Raj Kotecha. I would love to meet them, especially if you can highly recommend them to me. I'll be in Amsterdam from the 10th of February until the 20th, and I'm looking to connect with as many movers, shakers, hustlers, creatives, all of those good people. If you know who they are, drop me a message below right now, and I will see you with the gang next week on ALGO. Peace.